asking, who's Cliff Gager? Anyways, how are y'all? This weather is horrible, isn't it? But do you like it?
Finally we got some water.
Finally got some water.
Yeah.
Yay! That's where we're getting ready to leave. So, anyways, I'll give you a real quick. Anybody know me already? Raise your hand. Jake. Saw me where? Last year. Oh, goody. I'm not going to do the same thing, so it'll be different. Anybody else? No? Okay. All right. So I'll go through it real quick. I've been actually it's 16 years. We skipped a year here for. I just turned 50. Anybody 50 or younger?
Passed.
Older? Did it really suck going on that 50th birthday?
Big 5-0.
No?
It just gets better.
Does it really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I just had that realization that I'm half a century old.
At least you got there.
Well, and then the next thing I realized was as I was a kid, I was remembering, I always thought of the year 2000, I would be 35 years old, and I thought, oh my God, I'll be such an old man then. And then I realized it was 15 years ago. Anyways, I've been a real estate investing mentor for the last 15, 16 years. I've got 21 years experience in the business. I started in the mortgage business in 1992, buying, fixing, and selling houses. I love the mortgage business. I love math. Tell that to my second grade math teacher that said I would never amount to anything when it came to math. I've bought, fixed, and sold hundreds and hundreds of single-family residences. I've partaken in 1,500 transactions over my career. So I know a little bit about real estate, just a little. And I've helped people, just like you guys, thousands and thousands of people. Anybody watch Undercover Boss the other night? Was it last night? Yeah? They had a large, major seminar guy on there as the undercover boss. No, did missed it? God, it was all over Facebook. Just how much people love it. Well, anyways, I worked with people like that, and I did the back-end fulfillment. So when you paid $40,000 for one of these real estate courses, right? You guys know what I'm talking about? I was the guy that fulfilled it. I was the guy that showed up. I had the company that did all the training. It was all my training materials. And the reason they hired me is because I've got experience and my stuff works. So that's who I am. But it's land trust is the star today. I want to talk about the star of the day. And since Randy's here, I really love Randy. The guy is awesome. And it's so neat to be able to sit down and talk with him on the phone and talk about land trust. It's got to be the most boring subject in the world, but yet it's so exciting when you really know how to work a land trust properly. So what I'm going to show you is how to, anybody wholesale properties?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody bird dog properties? You know what I mean by bird dog? No? There's people out there that don't have any money, but they can put deals together, and they don't have the money to close the deal. So they go out and they find people that have the money, and they just get in the middle, and they bird dog or wholesale the property. They put the deal together, and then they get the person with the money together, and then they make a small fee in the middle. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So as far as that would be like a wholesale deal. Like I find a house that's worth $200,000, and I pick it up for $100,000. And I sell it to you guys because you have the $100,000 and the money to do the rehab and all that, and I don't. So I make $1,000 to $5,000 as a finder's fee, okay? But it's really difficult to do that, isn't it? Because I'd have to buy it, take title, and sell it to you, most likely, if it's an REO. Anybody work with REOs?
A little bit.
Anybody do any real estate at all?
Yes.
Anybody in the room not going to raise your hand no matter what I say?
Right.
Well, the difficulty became as years progressed. I mean, in the 90s, I could walk into any bank and say, yeah, I'll buy that. And they wouldn't ask for a proof of funds. They wouldn't ask for any money. They wouldn't ask for an earnest deposit. You know, they just basically, we'd shake hands and see you in 30 days. Right? Remember those days? Anybody? Yeah? It was really nice. Now, as time went on, there was a lot of people that didn't perform. So they start putting up a lot of obstacles for a broke person that doesn't have the money to buy lunch next week, cannot buy a house today, right? It makes it very difficult. They want proof of funds. They want to see the money in the bank. They want to see a letter from the bank stating that they know you and they've seen your 3 kids. You know, I mean, they want all of this stuff, so it makes it really difficult. So I'm going to show you guys how it's easy to do this with a land trust, because the land trust is one of the most amazing tools that I've come across in my career of all the 23 years, it's actually 23 years of doing this. Now the cool thing was I found out about Randy about 4 years ago, 3.5, 4 or 5 years ago, somewhere around there. And I hadn't known what a land trust was. I was buying things with an LLC. And then to get around all of the difficulties that the banks put up there, I would just sell you my LLC. So I would get the house under contract, right? And then I would sell you my LLC for $3,500. And I would just sign off on everything, you know, just like go to the attorney's office and I sign off that I'm selling my LLC to you. And because the LLC was in contract on that property, you therefore could go ahead and close on the property. But the banks are making it real difficult to buy an REO today with an LLC, aren't they? They really don't want to sell it to you if it's an LLC. So you buy it in a land trust. So I do the same thing with a land trust that I did with an LLC, except the LLC cost me $500 to $1,500 depending on who was doing it. Okay? The land trust cost me about 13 cents in ink from my printer. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that today. Does that sound something that you guys would be interested in learning?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah? Okay. All right, so it offers protection. So Randy talked about all the different aspects of protection. It gives you avoiding deed restrictions. How many times have you gone to buy a piece of property and they say you can't sell it for 60 days, 30 days as an investor? You know what I'm talking about? They want seasoning on it before they'll allow you. The buyer says, I'm going to sell it to you, and we're going to go round and round with the terms, and you're finally going to give in to what we allow you to buy it from us for, and then we're not going to allow you to sell it for 60 days. Because we don't want you to make any profits on it right away. Ugh. Any anarchists in the room? No. I will not comply. Right? So I'll show you how to avoid those. Easy flipping, assigned beneficial interest. Okay? If I own something in an LLC that owns this hotel, do I have to sell you this hotel or sell you the LLC? What's easier? LLC. I can do the same thing with a land trust. And it's absolutely even much more easier than doing it with a LLC. An LLC, you're going to have attorneys involved to do the transfer and more, right? More legal stuff there. With the land trust agreement, I can assign my beneficial interest. It's one page, one form, one piece of paper. Okay? And actually, if you bought Randy's thing, it's already in there. Pre- and post-closing transfers. I just put a contract on a piece of property. It just got accepted and I haven't even closed on it. Okay? But it's in the name of a land trust. Can I sell that property to you?
Sure.
Sure. I just assign the beneficial interest to you and then you close out the contract.
You don't pay transfer tax?
No. I never transfer the deed. I transfer the beneficial interest of the land trust. So now you guys bought the land trust. When you get one and you form a land trust, you do it in your living room, on your coffee table, on your dining room table. There's no attorneys, no deeds, no nothing. When you buy the property, the title company will transfer that from the seller to your land trust. You never really take title to it, your land trust does. So in between there, before you take title to it, because the contract is named to the land trust that you're holding, I know it gets a little complicated. You buy it in the ABC 123 land trust. Okay, that's the name of your land trust. But you haven't closed on the property yet. You can't sell me that property because you don't own it. By law, you cannot sell something you don't own. But you have rights to that land trust. That land trust has rights to the contract. Right? It's a legally binding contract. Does that make sense? Okay, so then can you sell that land trust to me? Yes. So I give you $3,000, you sign the beneficial interest over to me, and then I close the transaction. So you never take a dime out of your pocket. Did I go too fast for you?
No.
You guys should be like going, oh, that's so exciting.
It is exciting.
It is, it is.
It absolutely is.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
If I'm buying I will be the beneficiary of the land trust.
Correct.
I don't get a loan?
Oh, and the scenario that we're talking
Yeah.
about, you would be a cash buyer, so you wouldn't be getting a loan
Okay,
when you're making the offer.
okay, cash buyer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So pre and post closing transfer, let's say you do close on it, you pay cash for it, and then you sell it to me for $10,000 more. So what would happen at that point, there's no transfer of the deed once the land trust is in place. My son's in the back of the room eating. He's a good eater. So once the transaction takes place, the land trust owns it. So let's say Jake is your trustee, okay, and you're the beneficiary. Nobody knows who the beneficiary is because the way it's titled would be, when you look it up, as far as the owner, it would be the ABC 123 LLC Land Trust, Jake Trustee. Okay? You're not named anywhere except in the land trust paperwork, which is in your desk. Nobody ever sees that. Okay? So I couldn't contact you if I knew you owned it. I couldn't prove it unless I broke into your house and broke into your desk. Right? So what I would do is I would contact Jake. Jake is the owner of record because he is the trustee of the land trust. But 3 seconds after you closed on it, you fired Jake because you didn't like his shoes. Okay? And you appointed another trustee to it. That never gets recorded either. So now Randy is the trustee. So I go to Jake and I say, Jake, I want to buy her property. He says, I don't know anything about it. I'm not the trustee. Well, who is? He says, I don't know. Boom, I'm dead if I'm trying to come after you for something because I know you own it. Okay? So, but as far as a post-closing transfer, you can now sell your beneficial interest to them for $1,000, right? And then they take all the responsibility. So if you paid $100,000 for it, they give you $101,000. But nothing changes on public record. This is all inside your desk. You guys understand that? It's kind of hard to.
Powerful. The concept of beneficial interest is just, it's a powerful tool.
It's unbelievable. When I literally sat down and figured out what you could do.
All other things being equal, it overcomes so many problems in real estate
Yeah.
transactions. If you understand that concept.
And it sounds difficult right now, and once you go through this class, it'll be, oh my God, you'll be amazed at the abilities that you're going to have post-training.
That's right.
Easy owner finance. If I own a piece of property, if I own this house, and I own it in a land trust, and let's say my wife isn't my wife, and she comes up, she says, hey, I'm a single mom, and I want to buy this house. I don't have any credit, but I got a good down payment, and I can make a good monthly payment. Can you finance the house for me? 90% of the people cannot, because they owe money on it, or they just want to get the money out of it because they're buying it, fixing it, and selling it, they're flipping it, and they need to get their money out right away. Well, if you own it in a land trust, and you're into the house for $150,000, and it's worth $200,000, you need somebody to come along that can pay cash for it, or get a mortgage and qualify for it, so that you can cash out your $200,000. Okay? But she says, hey, I've got $30,000 down, and I can pay $3,000 a month. Can I sell that house to her? It's only worth $200,000. Can I sell it to her for $240,000, $250,000? No appraisals. If I own or finance it, right? So calculate what you're paying on it. Let's say my interest payment and my loan payment comes to $2,000, and she's going to pay me $3,000. So I make a $1,000 spread, and then you adjust the interest rate and the term of the loan backwards to fit so that you are ahead of the game versus your mortgage that you're paying versus the mortgage that she's paying. I know that's kind of, did I confuse anybody? Raise your hand if I confused you.
And
Okay.
And doesn't it get even easier if it's owned free and clear?
If it's owned free and clear, yeah, it's just amazingly easy. But if you owe $1,000 a month and you collect $2,000 a month, who wins? You're making $1,000 a month. So in the scenario with her, I'm paying $2,000, she's going to pay me $3,000, I collect $1,000 positive cash flow a month. Okay? But I'm not going to pay the taxes. I'm not going to be responsible for the insurance or anything because I don't own the house at this point, and she's buying it from me. So everything's going to what? Pass through to her. Okay? Because it's a pass-through entity. So what I do is I sell her my beneficial interest on a contract. Anybody ever hear of a contract for deed? Yeah, I hold the deed. Anybody ever buy a car? Finance it. You pay the bank until they do what? When you make that last payment, they send you what? The title. The deed to the car. It's the same thing. So if I have the beneficial interest, and I sell that to you on a contract, after the 360th payment, right? 360? 30 years? I'll give her the deed. Well, actually, I won't even give her the deed, will I? I'll give her the beneficial interest. I'll assign the beneficial interest to her at that point. Or if she pays it off in the meantime. And it's got an amortization schedule, just like if you were the bank. So if she decides to pay it off early, it's got a, you go to the month and the date, and it says, oh, pay off right here. Plus you add in the interest. So anyways, owner finance is super easy, and there is absolutely no recording cost, no recording fees. You don't record anything, unless you want to record your contract for beneficial interest. You can if you want to. Because title never transfers until the end. Okay? Just like you don't own your car if you're driving around and making a bank payment, the bank owns your car. They're holding the title. Right?
What happens if you change that beneficiary to 3-4 different people and you collect $1,000?
Well, you can do that, but you go to jail.
But the chances of people doing that could be a lot.
It could be a
Versus
lot.
recording it, because when you record it, you have a recorded document.
Correct.
The land trust is an agreement, and if if you're a crook and you transfer to beneficiary to 3-4 different, how am I supposed to know?
Well, in that case, what I would do is that contract between us on the beneficial interest can be recorded. And if you record it, it just clouds the title so that if anything else comes up and I try to sell it, you would be first in line because it would have the date that you are in
But
on
the
the.
thing is, the whole purpose of land trust it is to protect your privacy.
Right. Well, on this point, huh?
It's not.
No. As far as for doing owner finance, what doing it this way avoids is doing a rent-to-own or a lease option or a renter. If I'm going to rent the place, I'd rather sell it to them because it's going to give them an ownership status versus just a tenant. And like Randy said, I can have them out in 30 days, actually less. But at that point, I'm not going to be looking for asset protection unless I have a trust or an LLC that is owned, that the officers are a trust. Can I do a trust as the officers in an LLC?
Absolutely.
Okay. I can bury it. I can bury the fact that I own it.
You could really bury it
Yeah.
if you knew what you were doing.
Yeah. But the land trust makes it easy so you can do it on your dining room table, literally. I mean, you've got it right there. You just don't realize the power you
Yeah, the first one,
have
okay.
right there.
Can I make
Sure.
a comment? As I'm listening to all of this stuff here, I have a passive familiarity with trusts myself. And people, and this is kind of what I'm taking here, people have a difficult time understanding the concept of the trust and the power of it because they're not used to these kinds of transactions. And the things that you and Randy are describing here today are what I would call, for want of a better term, which I'm sure either you or Randy could come up with, an unadulterated transaction. And in today's world, we are not used to truly unadulterated transactions. We're used to, for example, has anybody ever heard of the concept of fee simple? It's the best kind of ownership of a property that you can have. Does anybody, this is kind of giveaway, does anybody here, does anybody at all own a property in fee simple? No, you don't.
Why not?
I could go into the case law on this, but I won't. But, and everyone will understand this when I say it, don't pay your property taxes for 5 years or 3 years or however long it is.
Then who owns
And
the
you will
house?
find out who holds the title to your property. There is no such thing as fee simple. It used to, in medieval times there was.
Mhm.
You know, Queen Elizabeth can hold title in fee simple.
So how does using a land trust, how does using a land trust avert those types of problems? You gotta pay your taxes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, a good example is, anybody know what the president's name is?
What,
Yeah.
President Obama?
President Obama?
Yeah.
Does he live in Chicago? Did he have a big, there was a lot of calamity about the ownership of his house. Do you remember when he was first running? Okay, Resnick, you've heard of that guy?
Yeah.
Okay, there was a real estate investor, and they had all of this calamity because they felt like this guy gave him the house. Or there was some sort of crooked deal that went through and he got this house, okay? I have no idea. You want to know why? Because whoever owns that property that Mr. Obama lives in, President Obama lives in, is owned in a land trust. Okay? The only thing that we know is the attorney, as the trustee, is President Obama's personal legal attorney. Okay? And we don't know who the beneficiary is. Okay? So he might not even own the house. It might be Resnick's house and he just lives there. Can we do that? Is that legal?
Yeah.
100% legal.
Absolutely.
Because I guarantee you, if that's the case, which they couldn't find it out. I mean, you had the world trying to figure out who the beneficiary was, and they couldn't do it.
But if he's living there and he's not paying rent, that's tax evasion, and he could be sued and he could pay.
Who's going to know that?
I could
There's
do that.
only one entity that will know if he's doing tax
Well,
evasion.
I could do that. You sue him for the frauding, for fraud. You can subpoena him, and under subpoena, doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, but he's got millions of dollars to
That's the common
stop you
idea.
from getting the subpoenas.
How's he gonna do it?
He's doing it now. He's been doing it for 8 years. But the point is, nobody knows. The only people that know is the IRS.
Probably they don't know either.
And us. We know what the hell's going on. But we can't prove it, can we? So we can't monetize the fact that we know what's going on. But it happens all the time. So what it does is it creates a veil of protection. Okay? And it can go many, 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 many layers deep. Because I could buy a house, I could buy your house in a land trust, and list a LLC as a beneficiary that is run by a trust, that is run by a family limited partnership, down the road. Just depends on how much protection do you want or need. But this is the one that I like right here, owner finance. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Practically no cost to create. You can create one right now for absolutely the cost of the ink and the paper. Okay? Because the instructions are all right there. The way he did it is literally, it's got the instructions right on it. No, when you pull out the form, it's got the instructions on the form. It says, if you want to do it this way, take these out. It's really, it's easy, easy, easy. So I'm going to go through protection a little bit real fast because I know we're waiting for the party. So it gives you privacy. Randy talked about that. Protection for and from others. Okay, why would I say for and from? Anybody buy a property with a partner? Ever? Okay. What happens if they go to the casinos next week and go bankrupt? And they just lose everything? And their name's on the title of your property. Has that ever happened?
Become a partner with them all.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where you call, well, I don't know the guy anymore, but not that I would know him anyways. But anyways, from your partners, it can be protection if you own it in a land trust, because nobody's going to know he owns that unless he divulges that. And then it's going to be really difficult for them to take that. Very, very difficult. Okay. And as far as protection for your partners, well, it works both ways, right? If I'm the one that just screwed up and I lost everything and I filed bankruptcy, it protects my partner as well as vice versa, right? The thing I love is if you own a piece of property with a land trust, the only person that knows it is the people that are involved in the deal, who the beneficiary is. And, or it's in a file cabinet in my drawer in my house. I have a literal arsenal and dogs. You cannot get on my property. Even the sheriff said I have to have a helicopter to get on your property. And an assault team. So I don't think you're ever going to get in my drawer. Not that I have an assault team because I have stuff in my drawer, but I'm just saying.
If that room burns down and all the document burns down, what happens?
Zip drive.
Recorded.
It's on jump drives. You can have everything on jump drives.
They
It's all
have-
digital.
They have bolts that are fireproof too.
Yeah.
Me too.
I may or may not have a gun safe in my house.
Find out.
Just go on Facebook, you'll see my vault. Avoid the deed restrictions. Remember I told you if there's a 30, 60, 90-day deed restriction from the seller when you buy an REO, I mean, that happens a lot. You can ask them to remove that. That's negotiable, by the way. If you buy an REO and they say, yep, it's a 30-day or 60-day or a 90-day deed restriction that you can't transfer the property, you could say, well, can you remove that? And they'll say, no, we can't. And you can say, please. And it's a negotiable item. And you can say, well, I'm going to withdraw $5,000 unless you move that, or I'm going to leave. You can do that. It's negotiable. They can take it off. It's a guideline. It's not a law. Okay? But I don't care. Give me a 300-day. I don't care. Because I'll transfer what? Not the deed. I'll transfer the beneficial interest. Okay? And I can do that before I close on the property. Then you have to, you'd have to close on it. But if I close on it and then transfer it, there is no recordation. There's no deed transfer. It is a non-taxable event as far as the county is concerned with the property tax. Okay? No doc stamps, no stamps. You know, when you ever go down and record something, and they have that thing there. You know what I'm talking about? Now they have an electric one. It makes the same noise. I think they did that on purpose. Right? So if it's bank-owned property, you're gonna avoid the no sale period instantly. Isn't that cool?
It's major.
Is that a major thing?
Major.
Okay. This means right here, if you're not wholesaling property, I teach real estate, and I teach people how to do buying houses with no money, and going out there and finding deals, and just getting in the middle. So you spend this much time over here finding deals, and you spend this much time over here finding the people with the money. Anybody have an IRA? Or anybody know somebody with an IRA? Okay, do you know they can be self-directed? Okay. I can tell you right now, I've got in a database, probably, in my database, personal, can't have it, probably $4.5 million of people with money in an IRA that's sitting there. Okay? That can buy a piece of property and pay cash for it today. Right? Okay. So, if I do a land trust, can they buy the beneficial interest of the land trust with their IRA money? If it's self-directed? Yeah. And a little bit for Cliff. Can they get their money out of that? You know, because if it's in an IRA, they have to take all the